Hi, folks. If you have been watching this podcast, you know that men are brilliant, sometimes absolute genius at talking football, but perhaps they are terrible at talking to each other about how they feel. So tonight we want to change that. We are raising funds for Movember, and we have a proper chat about what's going on within us. So stay with us and let us know what are you going through. If you are able to share your your stuff. Hi again, Vitor Vicent here. Welcome to the Witty Vitor podcast. You are very well aware that I don't love quotas, but I do love quality conversation. And this one we are about to have, this one really matters. And as you can see, I'm fully shaved for Movember. Movember means, for those who are not that familiar with, Movember means men's health, whether it's mental health, suicide prevention, prostate cancer, and testicular cancer. So I did set up a page to raise a bit of money. And if tonight's chat hits you, please donate. You can use the link I will put in the description, or you can just go or get there by utilizing this QR. I'm not doing this alone. I've got a lot of lads here to talk about this stuff honestly. And this is not just medical advice. This is more like friends talking to each other so that men can reach out to their mates before it's too late. I also want to express my deep gratitude that I just passed 1,000 subscribers at the beginning of the week. So let's use this little platform to keep growing together. So the first chat, I have James Robertson-Milligan. He is a mental health advocate, a photographer, and social care practitioner who rebuilt his life after facing depression and self-hate. James, you are very welcome to this podcast.
Thank you, Vitor. It's lovely to be part of this podcast as well. So it's great to be, part of a community that's looking to raise awareness for Movember and looking to raise awareness for the men folk that are kind of going through it themselves.
Excellent. Okay, there's a lot to go through. So let's start with what I call the turning point. So do you recall a moment or a situation when you came to the conclusion that something had to change before it's too late?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say probably about 10 years ago, I was on a real sort of downhill spiral. I had a lot of self-hate for myself, and I had a lot of self-hate for other people. And I'd been carrying that for, I don't know, probably close to about 20 odd years. I'd been carrying this huge weight on my shoulders, this huge amount of self-loathe for me and for others, in this world. I had no respect for myself, and in turn, I didn't have respect for others. So that's kind of where I was at. And then 10 years ago, someone very special came into my life, and not only did they see the best in me, they also saw the worst in me, but they chose to stand by me and stand by my side and help me see the potential that I had inside of me to be a much better person and to be able to give back to the community. And to have somebody there who loved me for me, like I say, seeing the best in me and also seeing the worst in me, but they chose to stand by me when they could have walked away at any time. They stood by me, and they're still standing by me today, 10 years on. That was the turning point for me. That's where I kind of had to take a step back and go through this whole cathartic way of living and grasping the nettle to change and look at obviously what I'd been doing, where I'd been going wrong to make things better for me.
You raise a very interesting point, which is about love. That's something I came to understand perhaps, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and I think it's you can put it this way: like you can love someone or a place if you are willing to live with the downsides of staying in that place or with that person. So you are fully aware of the picture. Okay, you can see what is negative, what you need to deal with, what you are not that happy about, but still you stay. You stay because love is more important than the battles that you are about to face. So I think that's a great lesson. When you can see that someone is conscious of the person you are, including those things that you're not very proud of, and they stay beside you, I think it's about to invest time with that person, because there are not many people who will be happy to take on those traits.
Oh, absolutely. And, even in the last 10 years, or at the very start of the 10-year journey that I've been on, there was plenty of times where I'd kind of tried to hit the self-destruct button, and I'd tried to self-destruct. But I think that was more kind of fear on my part, because for so many years I had my walls up, I had barriers up where I wouldn't let anybody in. I wasn't prepared to talk to anybody, about my state of mind, about my mental health, and I had that huge fear factor inside me. I had that huge fear of, I'm going to let myself go to this person and then I'm just going to end up getting hurt, and I don't want to get hurt. So if I hit that self-destruct button, then, it kind of not makes everything all right, but it just stops me from getting hurt, if that makes sense. And I think that is the barrier that a lot of men are finding, is opening up and being able to talk and having that safe place and that safe space to be able to talk about feelings and to be able to talk about, what they're going through, what's going through their mind. I don't think there is enough of that in today's community, in today's world for men.
And do you think we are to blame, or it is society that is set up in a way that we shouldn't speak about certain topics because there will be massive repercussions?
I think a lot of it is society, and I also think a lot of it is ourselves to blame. But then I think of that, it still comes back to that sort of 60s, 70s, 80s culture of if somebody's suffering mental well-being, I really don't like the term mental health, and I don't like the term mental illness. I prefer mental well-being as a term to be used. But if somebody is suffering with their mental well-being, then because of the stigma from what we used to see in the TV and in films of, if you talk about your feelings, if you're perceived to have, mental well-being issues, then, you're going to be put into what was known as a loony bin, an asylum, a mental hospital. And I think that stigma is still with us today. And I think that is what kind of stops a lot of people from opening up. Not just that, but again, men are looked at to be the alpha male, to be the chest beaters, as it were. And again, I think that kind of barrier stops a lot of men from being able to talk about their feelings, being able to talk about their emotions, to be able to put their hand up and say, look, I'm struggling. There is still that huge barrier that I think needs to come down, in order for society to be able to fully, or for men suffering with their mental well-being to fully be able to sort of not integrate with society, but to be able to stand up and have their voice heard.
Yeah. I think it's quite tricky, because if you share with your mates that things are not going well, there won't be much pity for you. They'll just say, have a drink, let's watch a sports game, and it will be fine. Okay, so they are not prepared to receive bad news. On the other hand, if you are doing great, let's say you were promoted or you started a business and it's flourishing, or you are dating that hot girl, they're going to think that you are bragging. So you also need to be very careful to share positive news. So end of the day, we end up being very much superficial, and we don't talk about things that matter, whether they are success stories or frustrations. And that brings us just to very basic things, just very frugal everyday situations. And we are much more than that, especially let's say when we are somehow profound individuals. Like if we spend some time doing introspection, we try to analyze our thoughts, our feelings, our sentiments, and there's a lot to tell about it. So that part of our life, it tends to be neglected. And then, of course, everything stays in our heads. And our heads, okay, it's a place where we should remain, but not for the whole day. There will be a time that we need to have opportunity to sit and discuss what we are going through. And
absolutely.
we cannot.
No, absolutely. The human body is like a pressure cooker. Okay, so what happens is you go through each day, okay, and you are getting more and more building up inside you. You're getting more emotions building up inside you. And at some point, that pressure cooker is going to go off. You're going to need to find an outlet to let go, or because you're just going to explode inside. So you need to find that outlet. And this is the thing. This is where there isn't enough outlets for men. Okay, you've got things out there like you've got the Man Shed and you've got other different various platforms for men to be able to talk. I was very fortunate enough a couple of years ago to stumble across a group on Facebook, and the group is called the Man Cave, and it was set up by a gentleman in East Anglia. And he's now gone on to win awards for what he's done. He's created this massive platform on Facebook as a safe place and a safe space for men to be able to get together and be able to talk about their feelings, what they're going through, how they're feeling. And that is massive to a lot of people, just to know that they've got that outlet. But again, when it comes down to outlets for men, it's not publicized enough. There isn't enough publicity for men to say, look, if you're struggling, this is where you can go. This is what you can do. For me, for example, I guess I was lucky enough to be able to find an outlet for me, and that outlet was through photography. I just picked up a camera one day and just went off just taking random photos. And while I was doing that, it enabled me to forget what I was going through at that particular time. And that's something that I've continued over the last sort of 10 years or so, is my passion for photography. When I'm behind my camera, I completely forget about everything that's going on in my life, everything that's going on in my world, any troubles and worries that I've got, because I'm focusing on something completely different.
Yeah, that's an interesting strategy. Let me try to bring the viewers into the conversation, because I've been quiet and we are instigating dialogue here. So why don't you participate in the chat? Let us know, what was your path to peace of mind? We will read it and we share it with other viewers, and maybe we can all benefit from it. James just mentioned photography. Perhaps you have something similar or something that is not exactly related, but I'm very keen to listen to it. You are mentioning the Men's Shed as a, let's say, a venue for a men's conversation, which is great.
Yeah.
What I find interesting is that we need to build those things for us to start opening up. It's a bit like gyms. Once I was watching a podcast and someone was saying, I can't remember who, but I find it fascinating, the way he captured how society is built these days, that we are so lazy, that we need to build these artificial places, where we need to spend our energy. Because back in the days, like physical work will do. But now, because most people sit in front of a computer, we need gyms where there are actually weights, and there are also treadmills where people run, because people don't like to run in the nature. I know sometimes the weather doesn't allow, but there's also a degree of laziness on individuals, including myself. I'm not just talking from the top of a pedestal here. I love gyms. I cannot imagine working out outside of the gym. To me, it works, but it seems to be that is a human need these days. So it's not on us. Like, we need to have those spaces where, okay, this is where we work out. This is where we talk to each other without much constraints. It's not something natural, but it does help. But we need the context, let's say.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think as well, obviously, post-pandemic, I hate to bring COVID into this, but obviously post-pandemic, a lot of us are now working from home more because we've now got that flexible working environment. And, whilst it's nice to be able to work from home, I think, again, obviously that has its negative side to it because you're not in an office environment, you're not in an environment where you're surrounded by other people and you've got that chance to sit down and have a cup of tea and just have that face-to-face interaction with your co-workers, your colleagues. So I think obviously a lot of people working from home, it kind of has that negative impacts. And plus, and I'm guilty of this as well, I tend to work a lot longer than what my contracted hours are. So again, that kind of stops me from sort of being able to get out and be able to get out and do things because I find I'm working a lot longer. Whereas when I'm in the office, as soon as it comes to the end of the day, that's it. I'm logged off. I'm getting in the car. I'm driving home.
Yeah. I totally relate to that myself. Like I went full self-employed employer in July, so it's now 3 months, and it's very addictive because there's always something to do, and there is no one to stop you.
Exactly.
And you can see the benefits. You can see that there is something there that you can avail of. Maybe it's not immediately, but on a long run, there will be tangible objective that you're going to attain if you work hard. At least there is that belief, when you are seeing it, when you are seeing the task. And why would you stop and cook the dinner when you can just order your food in, I don't know, in 30 seconds? And in the meantime, you can still work on that specific activity. And then, of course, that leads to not the best food. That leads to not reply to your family, your friends on WhatsApp, because you believe that you can conquer the road by just being active. And it doesn't work like that, because sometimes being too active, it's not necessarily synonymous of being productive, because if you are exhausted, how can you deliver? You cannot. You start to slow down. Your brain is not totally there. So that's some advice I would like to give to people, let's say, who are working for themselves, that there is a lot of appetite, but you better put some barriers, because otherwise you think you are working properly, but often you are not.
No, that's right. But then again, taking this back to someone's mental well-being. Okay, so if you're working from home, okay, and you've got problems at home, let's say somebody is suffering with loneliness, okay, you are going to be living in that environment 5 days a week, 7 days a week, because those 5 days where you would be in the office, you'll be surrounded by other people, you'd be able to have different conversations, have a laugh and a joke with your co-workers and your colleagues, catch up on, what was on TV last night, things like that. You haven't got that anymore because you're working from home. You haven't got that face-to-face contact, if that makes sense.
Yes, and it's not like, because some people will say, I can get it from talking to people to screens. I'm sorry, but you cannot. It's not a replacement. It's more of it may complement some of the things you have. It's an addition, if that makes sense.
And again,
but it's never a replacement.
And again, it's putting that barrier in front of people, being able to openly talk. Being able to talk about how they're feeling, being able to talk about, if they are feeling lonely, if they are suffering with anxiety, if their mental well-being is being affected. That barrier is there straight away, because you're not having that face-to-face conversations with people. You're not in the same room as somebody. You can't just sort of say, come on, let's go for a quick cup of tea. That barrier.
There's something about breathing the same oxygen. It's interesting, no?
Definitely.
That you cannot tell that to, especially to the youngsters, because they spend a lot of time on online school and talking to others on WhatsApp. But we are same generation, as we discussed offline, and we know that there is a degree of sharing if you are in the same room, that you cannot get it through screens. I love screens. I benefit a lot of that. We are doing this via screens. But ideally, like I would sit with you, James, and all the other guests in the same room. Just logistically, it's not something that we can do. But otherwise, I would do it gladly. I want to ask you something about physical responses, because I think sometimes the body, it's I would say sometimes the body is wiser than the brain. What I mean by that is we are not able to understand what's going on with us until the body sends a message. Did that happen to you?
I can't answer, because if we're talking back to that turning point in my life, I think I was going through so many different emotions and so many different feelings at that time. It's hard to find where that pinpoint was, or to find where that balance was, where my body was telling me something that my mind wasn't, or my mind was telling me something that my body wasn't. I think up until that point, I was drinking a lot. I was staying awake, through all hours of the day and at night time. But then I was also having that time where, I'd wake up in the morning and think, I don't want to get out of bed today. I don't want to open the curtains. I don't want to face the world. I'm just going to get back under my duvet and that's it. And then I would then end up going out that evening, drinking a lot, staying up till 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, coming home, getting to bed, and then, getting up at some mornings again, like 8 o'clock in the morning to go to work, and trying to function on 3.5 hours sleep or something like that. But I think the body part telling my body was kind of screaming that it needed peace and quiet, because my mind was chaos. My mind was just a minefield up there. But my body was slowing down and slowing down. That was probably my body's way of saying to me, you need to stop now. This needs to stop. You need to stop. You need to just look after yourself now.
Was alcohol somehow a vehicle to get the adrenaline that you were not achieving sober?
I think it was just to drown. I think it was to dampen or drown out what I was actually feeling, to suppress it. Where alcohol, as we know, it's not a suppressant to people's feelings. Basically, yes, it will mask it, but that's all it's doing. It's just masking it. The feelings, the emotions are still going to be there regardless. All the drinking does is it will just mask it for that small, brief period of time.
Yeah. I think drink is it's a very peculiar drug. I had this chat with many people, because you would often say, don't do drugs, don't do cocaine, but don't drink. Well, it's not that acceptable. Or let's say, if I say I don't do drugs, that's fine. They won't raise any eyebrows. But if I say don't drink, there'll be a queue of people asking me for a justification. And I wonder, why is that? I'm not saying that people should stop drinking. I'm not saying people should pursue that lifestyle or the other. It's just the way society views alcohol. It's a totally different concept of drug.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, when you're drinking, it will alter your state of mind. And it can have catastrophic consequences. Especially if your mind is. And the last thing I want to do is trigger anybody who's watching this. I don't want to trigger anybody. But obviously, alcohol, it can alter your mind's consciousness and your conscious state. And, it can lead to people doing things that, they can't return back from. It's the biggest thing with men being able to talk about their feelings and emotions is if a man has died by suicide, the first things people normally tend to say is, I didn't know he was feeling like that. He never told me he was feeling that way. He never spoke up about his feelings or emotions. And again, that takes us back to the stigma of, are men allowed to talk about their feelings and their emotions? And yes, men are allowed to talk about their feelings and emotions, and men should be standing up and having their voice heard and having their feelings and their emotions taken into consideration and being validated.
Yeah, you raise a very interesting point, the suicide signs. I think I don't have numbers or statistics, with me, but from my understanding, experience, exposure to the topic, and it's in line with the things you just say. Most times when someone take their life away, especially a man, there were no indicators that was about to happen.
Exactly.
I don't know. I would
Exactly.
say 7 out of 10, or if not more. Like people will be surprised. People would say, "Yeah, there was something odd about him." Let's say when he was drinking, or something odd I don't know, when he was returning from holidays. But that was never like the beginning of the suicide. That was just something
Exactly.
odd about an individual, because everyone is odd
Yeah.
in their own way. But
Yeah.
to be suicidal, well, that's a different step.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is the first thing people say is, I didn't know he was feeling like that. I didn't know he was having those thoughts, you know. And yeah, that's because, men don't have that platform to be able to speak out, and men should have that platform. That platform should be there equally for men as it is for women. I don't want to take anything away from women, but I think men deserve to have that platform as well. Men are allowed to have that platform.
Yeah, 100%. Let me share with the with the viewers my Movember campaign. So I'm running a campaign to grow awareness on mental health, male health, like prostate cancer, also suicide prevention that we just mentioned. So if you want to provide a donation, I started yesterday at 50 euros, so it's not too bad for someone who is running this as a one-man show. So I'm going to put here in the comments, and if you guys, even a fiver, every little bit contribution matters. So please, if you can dispense 5-10 euros, I'll be more than happy. Let's get into the creativity topic, because that's something that really resonates with me as a writer, as a podcaster. You mentioned photography. How did you get into it? Was it a friend? Was it like some strange day that you put your hands on the camera and you felt there was something new to explore?
I think it was that. I think it was literally, I just picked up a camera one day and just thought, I'm just going to go out today. I'm going to take some photos and just see what comes of it. I went out, took some photos one day. My photos weren't particularly great back then, because I was learning how to use a camera and stuff like that. And I think I'd always had an interest in photography, but never really sort of carried it through or sort of thought more about it. And then I just sort of like over the last sort of 10 years, I've just got more and more into photography, looking at different landscapes, different ideas, things like that. And yeah, that's where I'm at now with the photography, that I'm now doing photography for sports companies. I've done a couple of weddings now. So I do a lot of sporting events, done a few, what's the word I'm looking for? Portrait photos for people, like photo shoots. So yeah, over the last sort of 10 years, I've literally just, by going out and just learning photography and just going out on my own and doing it, I've learned so much more, how to be more creative. And I think that has really kind of helped my mind space and my way of thinking, because I'm now every day I'm thinking more creative things to do. With my spare time, rather than finishing work and just sitting in front of the TV doing absolutely nothing, I'm now thinking, right, there's a perfect sunset tonight, or there's clear skies tonight, or this weekend, this event is happening. I can go out and do some photography. So it's just given me that direction. That hobby has turned into such a passion for me that it's now actually starting to pay me by going out and doing that.
Yeah, Yeah, it's very interesting how creative endeavors transform our lives. I was actually talking to a friend of mine who was guest number 1 in this podcast, and back then, he was not very much into creativity as a creator. He would be a consumer. Let's put it like that. He would read books. He would attend gigs. He would sit on the cinema theater, but he wouldn't be a creator. Now he is a creator all the time. Like he is now writing every day. He is DJing, and he joined me on this podcast every month to discuss writing. And it was all about that door that he opened, and all of a sudden he found himself in a totally different road. And he always mentioned that to me. He would never go back to the person he was. The moment you crossed that that border, you are a totally different person, and in a good way.
Oh, definitely. And I would never go back to that person that I used to be, because I've done so much over the last 10 years to turn my life around and better my life and better me. For me to go back, I'll just be throwing away all of the hard work that I've done over the last 10 years. It hasn't been easy. I've had to face a lot of demons, and I've had to battle with a lot of emotions and a lot of feelings, but I've got through it. Every day gets easier. It's such a cliche because everyone says, "Oh, time is a healer," and yes, time is a healer, but there is no time limit. You just take each day as it comes. You just take it step by step. If you put too much pressure on yourself, you're going to collapse. You're going to fall down. Whereas if you don't put that pressure on yourself, then things will come a lot easier. But what I've achieved over the last 10 years in myself and my outlook on life, there's no way I'd be able to go back to where I was 20 years ago. But as human beings, we've always got this curious mind. We're always curious. We're curious about everything. And what I would say to anybody who is kind of in that position at the moment where they are suffering with that mental well-being is to tap into that curiosity part of their mind. What is it they're curious about? What is it, they think about? What would they like to achieve? And just to set up little goals and little stepping stones to get to where they want to be.
You're talking about your previous self. Was there a moment where you noticed that if you go that direction, you can go back to the person you were? And what did you do to stop pursuing that route?
I think it's having that sense of deja vu, a sense of, I've been here before, I've done this before. But I think it's also our sixth sense inside us. Everyone's got a sixth sense, and I think it's our sixth sense inside us that would sort of lead us to think, right, I've got these two paths in front of me. If I go down this path, this may happen. If I go down that path, this may happen. But I think your sixth sense will lead you to the right path.
Yeah.
And I think, like I say, a lot of it comes down to deja vu. I was massively in debt in my 20s. I'd got myself into about £10,000 worth of debt. And that debt was accumulated through mobile phones, because I had this notion in my mind that if I had the most up-to-date mobile phone, I'd have loads of friends and loads of people would surround themselves with me. So literally every couple of months, I was going into a mobile phone shop and taking out a new contract and getting a new mobile phone. And I think at one point I had about 7 contracts running. I was paying nearly sort of £400 or £500 a month just in mobile phone bills. And I'm sitting there thinking, but I've got all these phones and I've still got no friends around me. Why have I done this? I've just got myself into a load of debt over nothing. And I've got nothing to show for it. I've got £10,000 worth of debt and I've got nothing to show for it. I haven't got a big screen TV, I haven't got, Sky TV or anything like that. All I've got is 5 pieces of plastic in front of me.
Yeah, talking of crowds, let me just incentive the viewers to subscribe. We are now more than 1,000. I worked hard on this. But I'm not stopping here, because as I said, like once you build that foundation, you don't want to go back. So please be part of the community. There will be more Movember chats happening this month and some other stuff. So I'll be happy to have you around. Talking of the people we spend time with, I think it's crucial, because you were saying that yes, yeah, if it is between me and myself, yeah, that was my impression. It's a bit easier. But when others are around, I think sometimes, I don't know if you encountered that, but I certainly did. Like,
Yeah.
there are people that are friends of mine for, I don't know, I'm fortunate to say 10 years. We've been hanging out for 10 years, and I evolved, they evolved, so that's why we are still friends. But there are certain things that I don't want to keep anymore because I changed. But when I meet them, I see them coming back. And perhaps the same happening with them. I'm not blaming anyone here. Actually, I'm the one guilty, because I need to understand what I'm doing, what I'm saying, and how am I presenting myself. But it's very easy to go back to the old ways if you are surrounded by the old crowd. Is it something that you came across?
Not really, no, because I separated myself when my partner walked into my life 10 years ago. I had a choice to make. It was either, be happy and experience happiness and love, or stick with my old ways where self-hating, self-loathe, hating other people. So I had to kind of let go of everything and everybody in my past to enable me to move forwards. And to be honest with you, I haven't really looked back. Because I know that if I did go back to those people, then I know that I would end up, drinking again, getting into the wrong crowds, doing the wrong things in life, and hurting a lot of people again. And that's not me anymore. That's not what I'm about. I'm 46 years old. And to be honest with you, I find the boring life a lot happier for me. My mind is a lot clearer. My mind is a lot less foggy, and I feel a lot more sort of happier and self-content within myself.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's not uncommon, let's say, in our age group, that you want to settle, you want to take the benefits of not searching for novelty. Actually, I told a friend of mine once that if you have an adventurous life, let's say in your 20s, even in your 30s, at some point you're going to exhaust that, because there's not much more novelty. I mean, you can be very open, you can travel the road, and there's always a degree of novelty, but at some point things start to be similar to each other. And funny enough, when you sit in your couch, in the same couch for consecutive months, you start to see things that you wouldn't encounter if you would be going all over the place. Now, sometimes there is novelty, weirdly enough, in the repetition.
But I'm having more adventures in my life now than what I was back then, because back then my adventures was going to the pub, going to football, whereas now I'm going on holiday 3 or 4 times a year. I'm traveling the UK. I'm seeing a lot of different things. I'm experiencing a lot of different things. So I'm having more adventures now, which are a lot healthier for me and a lot better for me than what I was, 10 plus years ago. So even though I've kind of settled's the wrong word. I've adapted to, let's say, the boring life. But to me, it's not boring, because I'm doing a lot more. I'm having more adventures. I'm having more quality time. I'm doing a lot more things. I'm doing a lot more things for me. I'm doing a lot more things with other people, things that I would never have done sort of 10, 20 years ago. And I'm getting more enjoyment now than what I was back then, because I'm happy. I'm in a better place.
One is joy, and I think the other is fulfilling, which is something that you don't really attain when you are just searching a quick and cheap pleasure. You get some You get some joy, but it's not the same as fulfilling. Fulfilling is something that you can only get, let's say, if you work hard, if you are willing to wait to attain your objectives. It's not something instant. It's a different process. So you are watching sports as well. You're not watching sports anymore. I'm going to try to joke here. Maybe you are a Manchester United fan and you just walk away from football. Is that the case? Because they were much better before.
No, I'm unfortunately a West Ham fan, and it's hard being a West Ham fan, especially at the moment. It's difficult.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard. But yeah, it's sport for me is a big thing. Okay, I do love sport. I watch sport on TV a lot. You know, I watch the Formula One, I watch cricket, I watch tennis, I watch football, I watch rugby. Any form of sport, I'll end up sitting there and watching it. But equally, I love getting out in the garden now. I love doing things like gardening. I love doing housework. I love doing ironing. It's stuff that is relaxing. I find it so therapeutic just to plod around the home, just doing simple little things in the home. I find that so therapeutic and so relaxing now.
Yeah, some say that doing the little things and pursuing those small wins at home, they are quite beneficial for the brain because you can get stuff done. And we know there's a positive emotion, even from finishing the dishes. We're all going to feel better afterwards. Okay, I hate doing the dishes, I'm going to be honest, but I love the feeling of staring at the dishes when they are done. So sometimes when you don't know exactly what to do, you are a bit lost. Maybe just get busy with something that requires attention at home, and you're going to feel way better going forward because you know that your surroundings it's in a better shape because you put some work on it.
Exactly, but the trick to it is not to put pressure on yourself. Don't put pressure on yourself to go out and get something done. You know, just don't do it. Just don't put that pressure up on yourself. Just, take it at your own pace, at your own leisure, at your own time. And then you'll see that things will get done a lot easier that way than having that pressure of, I've got to get this done. I've got to get the dishes done. I've got to get the ironing done. I've got to get the washing done today. I've got to cut the grass today. I've got to take the dog for a walk today. If you put that pressure on yourself, you're not going to get anywhere. And that's the same with your mental well-being. If you put pressure on yourself, it's not going to happen. It's not going to work because ultimately all that's going to happen is you're going to get to the end of the day. You're not going to get all the things done that you said in your head you was going to get done that day. And you're going to feel like a failure. You're going to feel like, you haven't achieved anything. Whereas if you don't put the pressure on yourself, by the end of the day, you might say to yourself, well, I haven't achieved cutting the grass. I haven't achieved doing the ironing, but I have achieved putting some washing on. I have achieved doing the dishes.
Yeah,
and they're the little wins in life.
Sorry,
I was going to say they're the little wins in life,
Yes.
I'd rather get. So
go on.
I was going to say I'd rather get to the end of the day and know that, okay, I haven't done the ironing or I haven't cut the grass, but I did do the dishes and I did put some washing on, because to me that's a goal. You've set out something that you've achieved to do.
Yeah, I think if you can manage to put your head on the pillow, let's say at 10 o'clock or 11 or whenever you go to bed, and you are in peace, then you are a winner.
Yeah.
And if you are able to do it consecutively, of course there'll be days that are not as bright, but that's just life. But let's say if the pattern is you find peace in a pillow, then you are doing great. You are doing way above the average. You are probably top 10%. You can be very proud of how are you conducting yourself, because not many people are aware of that feeling of going to bed, feeling at rest. And if you are able to check your feelings and your feelings are positive, hats off.
Yeah, but then the other trick to it is to know that you haven't got to be happy 100% of the time, every single day. Nobody could sustain that every single day. And if someone says to me, oh, yeah, I'm happy all the time, then I would call BS on that and say,
Yes.
I don't believe you, because nobody can be 100% positive 100% of the time. As much as we'd like to be, nobody can.
No,
So it's okay.
that's a complete lie. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's okay to not feel okay. It's okay to have, those days where you don't want to smile, you don't want to talk to anybody, you just want to be on your own. It's okay to have those days, there's no shame in that whatsoever. And again, this is what comes back to men's mental well-being of there is no shame. You shouldn't feel ashamed because you don't want to talk to somebody. You shouldn't feel ashamed because you want to have a cry in the bath or in the shower or in bed or watching TV. There is no shame. There shouldn't be any shame because you want to be able to talk to somebody because you're not feeling particularly well yourself. There's no shame in that at all. And that's the stigma that we need to move on from, because honest to God, when I grasped that nettle 10 years ago and I opened up, that was it. Once I'd started to open up, I couldn't stop. And even now, 10 years on, me and my partner, we still sit there and I will still have conversations with her about my emotions, about my feelings, what's going through my head that day. The key is communication and communicating your thoughts, because people say a problem shared is a problem halved. And do you know what, Vitor? It's absolutely true. A problem shared is a problem halved. And we need to get people talking. People need to start being validated for their feelings and their emotions before it is too late.
100%. 100%. I would say, like, if you have a problem, okay, and you have someone to talk to about that problem, you are already halfway there. Okay, it's already the beginning of the resolution. And I'm saying someone that you can really talk to, not someone that will just pretend they are there. Someone that will care and take the time to go through your problem, whether it takes 10 minutes or an hour. That person will be there. Especially, I would say, especially if it is okay. Your partner, it's always crucial. Especially if you have that friend, keep it. That friend is precious. That friend, it's a friend, that you cannot replace. Like, make sure that you, and also make sure that you are there for him when he needs. This thing needs to be mutual. Otherwise, it won't work in the long run.
It has to work both ways. There has to be that two-way with it. But what else I will say, if there's anybody watching who feel that they haven't got someone to talk to, I would strongly recommend going onto Facebook, going to the Man Cave, signing up, join that Facebook group, because you won't be alone. There's always somebody there that you can talk to, no matter the time of day, and it is a great outlet, and you will make some really good friends on there, and it is a 100% safe space and safe place to be.
So check it out, guys. Sometimes online, it's the remedy for your problems. The other is that there are some, this here in Ireland, I'm sure in the UK as well, there are some phone lines that you can ring. There are some NGOs that are working 24/7, and if you want to just, sometimes all you need is to take that thought off your chest. That's it.
That's absolutely.
If you're able to have a voice, if you're able to have someone to listen to you, you'll feel way better and you'll sleep better. And perhaps tomorrow it won't be as heavy as you thought, because you were able to get someone to pay attention to your problem.
Exactly that. I mean, you've got the Samaritans. The Samaritans is a free phone number. They're open 24/7. There's always somebody at the end of the phone who's willing to listen and help and advice, give you advice and guidance. The Samaritans, they do an absolutely amazing service, absolutely fantastic. And, the people that work on the phones there, I sometimes feel they are undervalued and underappreciated for, what they do every day. But they are a good source of people to talk to. They are
Yeah.
very helpful. And yes, I've spoken to them a couple of times in the past. And after speaking to them on the phone, I have felt better about things.
Yeah, these people are very, very important. Now, let's talk about the dark side of the internet. I think it's a quite common topic. Yes, I mean, we fully agree that there's a lot of positive aspects about the digital world, but we all know that many individuals like to pretend. They sell a life that is not theirs. They only show the car that they just purchased, or the fancy place where they're having dinner, or that holiday where they are heading to. And often some individuals who for some reason they cannot afford those things, they feel bad because they start to compare themselves. What's your advice for those lads who have the tendency to compare themselves and they cannot stop?
Yeah, absolutely. And, like I was saying earlier, I kind of went through that myself where, what I was seeing on social media about, with people having the latest technology, the latest gadgets and stuff like that, to me, I felt like I needed that as well. And that was, like you say, the dark side of social media. Sometimes social media can be very unsocial media.
Yeah.
Because you'd see your friend on there, they're wearing the latest designer label clothes, the latest trainers, they've got the latest laptop, the latest phone, things like that. So you would think, well, I need to have that then, if Jeff's got that, I need that, because look how happy Jeff is because he's got all this, and I'm not happy because I don't have any of that. So I need to get that. When half the time, yeah, Jeff may have all these nice things, but we don't know the story behind Jeff, what he's gone through or what he's going through. And that's the thing with social media. Social media at times can be what's known as a single story.
Yes.
Because we're only seeing one side of it. We're not seeing the other side of it. And that's the same with media, for example, like the news that you're watching. You're watching news on TV, you're seeing the news presenters' views. You're not seeing what's going on behind or what's happened. You're only seeing one side of it. And that's the dark side to social media, is that it can at times be very single story.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. And it's always the positive side. I'd say 9, not even 9 out of 10. I'd say 98 times of the 100, it's always the positive aspects. Then there will be one that is in between, and then there's an odd person who often goes on forums, doesn't show his name, and just share that things are very bad as an anonymous. And I understand that you don't want to put it all there, but I think the more open you are, the easier it will be. And just to mention one thing that you just referred, you see those guys who purchase that watch or that house or go on that holiday, and they sell the idea that they are happy, and perhaps some of them are happy. Some, not all, but some are happy. But the question is, would that car make you happy? Not always. Would going to Greece change your life for good for the rest of the year? Perhaps not. Perhaps to be a quick dose of dopamine that will last 2 months. So maybe what folks need to pursue is not a material thing, but something that it's within themselves. So they need to spend some time trying to know who they are and not purchasing stupid stuff.
Exactly. And you know what, Vitor? Yes, it is nice to have nice things in your life, and it can bring you happiness to have the nice things. But sometimes less is more.
Yes.
I could have less than what Jeff's got, for argument's sake, but I could be more happy than what Jeff is. So sometimes less is more. And, like I say, you could have less, but you could be a lot more happy. You could be a lot more fulfilled and a lot more content with what you have.
Yeah, I will be happy with more subscribers. I'm just going to add people to subscribe. I don't want to contradict you, but I will use this context to ask people And I will utilize this topic to talk about this. Less is more. But please, if you haven't subscribed, I'll be happy if you can, because it's not that I want to feel proud and brag about it. It really helps to distribute the content. So this conversation, my estimation, is being very helpful, and I think about can benefit from it. So if we have more subscribers, if you have more people watching it, that maybe we can even save lives. Who knows?
Absolutely.
Maybe I'm overestimating, but you never know. You never know what people are going through. So also share your comments, and we're more than happy to discuss your input. And if there's someone that may benefit from it, please share. We'll talk about this less is more. Like no, I was actually thinking about that. Okay, I'm now over 1,000 subscribers, and yeah, I'm satisfied that is a sign that there are people paying attention to what I'm doing here. Perhaps I helped some people in some shape or form to improve their lives. So that's it's a good sign. And then there are people out there with 5,000, 10,000, 50,000, 100,000 subscribers. Are they happier than me? I don't know. I don't think that's a real metric. I think it's not about that. Does that help? Of course, that's a sign they're doing better. Would I change my life? Sometimes I see like folks with, let's say regular folks like me have, I don't know, 7,000 subscribers, and they tell about their lives, what they do, and what keeps them busy, and I try to do the benchmark between my circumstances and theirs. I wouldn't change my life of 1,000 subscribers for theirs with 7,000, 10,000. It's not about that, because there are other things. Like, as you said, the picture is way wider than just a couple of elements.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you've got to look at what you're doing at the moment, Vitor, is you're growing a community organically to provide a platform to help other people. You're providing, real life stories. You're providing, real life situations. Whereas you've got people out there on YouTube that may have, 50,000, 100,000 followers. Yes, they are portraying real life, but they're only portraying what they want you to see. Whereas what you're doing, Vital, is you're portraying the real world as it is now through other people's experiences, other people's stories. So you are helping so many people because you're living in the here and now. Whereas, other YouTube influencers are only letting you see what they want you to see, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Whereas what you're doing, you're opening up a platform to give people, such as myself tonight, this platform to be able to talk about what I've been through, which may in turn, if it helps just one person out there, if my story can help just one person, then that is worth, the 50,000 likes or 50,000 subscribers.
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%. There's a sentence in the Talmud that says, "He who saves one life saves the entire universe." So that's exactly what you were saying. I was actually talking to that friend of mine who now is a writer. We will do a writers workshop on Tuesday together with another writer. So actually, let me take the opportunity to advertise. If I happen to be in Ireland, myself, Jeroen van Domeva and Maria Stravopova, we will run a writers workshop on Tuesday in Greystones in the library, 6:30, so everyone is invited. It will be live. First time we will go live as a digital episode. Now we have the chance to talk to people in person. This will be broadcasted, so if you are not in Ireland, you're more than happy to watch us on Tuesday. But what I want to say with that is we are building this momentum, and it looks great. And I can keep a track of the people that are booking their spot, to attend the event. And I told them, if we manage, we need to be humble, to get one or two people that is not part of our circle, I'm already happy. If there is someone who watches online and is taking their time to attend the event on Tuesday, and they are not my friends or Jeroen's friends or Maria's friends, great. It's already a fantastic achievement. If you can bring an unknown person to watch your show and they are making something out of it in a positive manner, it's a victory. I take that.
Absolutely.
I take that.
Definitely. And you should. You should.
Let's talk now about another topic that I have here. I think it's quite interesting. Is in terms of ambition. Okay, so if there's someone there, let's say they wanna climb, let's say, in their profession, in their career. Okay, but they don't want to exhaust themselves too much, so they want to put the right level of stamina that they won't be overwhelmed. We all know that if there's too much on the plate, we can lost our way. So what would be your advice for someone who they know the path, but they are overdoing it?
If they know the path and they're overdoing it, I would simply just say, look, slow down. Rome wasn't built in a day. You can still get to where you want to get to. You don't have to do it at 1,000,000 miles an hour. You're far better off taking your time and doing it slowly than, trying to race through, because you might find that if you race through and you get to where you want to be, in terms of career wise, you might think, I've made a mistake. This isn't actually what I want to do. This isn't actually where I want to be. Whereas if you do it slowly, you can take time to see everything a lot more clearly in front of you. You're a lot more focused. So you will see it a lot easier, a lot clearer. So yes, go after your dreams, go after your ambitions. Don't let anybody ever tell you you can't do something, because we can all do what, we set out to do. So don't let anybody say you can't do this, or you're not good enough, or you're not worth it, because you are. Everybody is. But just do it, at your pace, at the pace that's going to be right for you. Don't try and rush it. Just take it nice and steady.
You mentioned something that I think is crucial, which is focus. Like, you can be talented, you can have the right network, you can avail of time, but if you don't have focus, you won't be able to achieve much. So how would you go about having the right focus when there's a million things in your head?
I think having the right the right focus is by listening at what's going on around you and looking at what's going on around you. If you have that focus, you'll be able to, like I say, you'll be able to see a lot clearer. You'll be able to think a lot clearer. And that's why I say just do it at your own pace. Do it slowly. There's no rush. You will still get to where you want to be, but just take your time. Take your time, because if you rush and you make a mistake, are you going to sit there and think, again, I'm a failure, I can't do this, why am I putting myself through this? Whereas if you do it at a slower pace, things will come a lot easier, because you're not trying to rush.
Yeah, and that thing that you just said, that if you rush, chances are way higher that you make a mistake. And then it's not just a task. Then they have an additional layer, which is fixing the mistake. And usually fixing a mistake, it's not a very pleasant task. Okay, sometimes you learn, sometimes there is something there for you, but I would say that's not that frequent. Usually fixing a mistake, it's something that you need to do because it's just there on the way, and somehow you cannot progress without correcting it.
It's okay to make mistakes, because that's how we learn. We have to make mistakes to learn. But like I say, if you do it at a slower pace, yes, you may still make mistakes, but you will find that you will learn from those mistakes a lot quicker than if you made 10 mistakes in one go because you're going too fast, than making one mistake in one go because you're going a bit slower.
Let me just encourage viewers again to donate to Movember. This is important. It's all about raising awareness. We all know that men tend to be distracted and not always with things that matter. So I think this Movember campaign can help a lot of lads out there that are not really paying attention to what they are going through. They are just dragged by life. I think it's a quite common phenomenon these days. How do you talking of distractions? How do you go about not being diverted to the wrong things, temptations, that kind of thing?
At the end of the day, everybody's tempted by something in life. Vitor, we're always going to have those temptations, but I think it's a case of just stopping for a moment and thinking, if I take a bite from that apple as opposed to that apple, what's going to happen? What's going to be the consequences? And I think that's where the temptation comes in, is like, yes, we're all tempted by certain things in life, but it's just a case of just having that quick 5 minutes. What would happen if?
Yeah, and it stays in your head, because if you don't taste it, then the imagination can be your worst enemy, because it will start to tell you,
Absolutely.
well, it's a kind of sweet that you never encountered, and if you don't
Yeah.
bite that apple, it will be gone. And it's not exactly like that, because I mean, I think sometimes our imagination can be pernicious. There is
Yeah,
something
definitely.
about, like, I think I find often, like, sometimes our problems, our bigger problems, are not exactly tangible, but there are things that our mind builds.
Yeah, definitely. Our mind, it can sometimes intensify problems, and I'm guilty of this even to this day. My mind will sometimes run away with me, and I will think the worst of a situation, and my mind will
Yeah.
fixate on the worst possible outcome when the worst possible outcome wouldn't even happen, but my mind would fixate on that, and it would magnify and intensify it to the point where, even now, Vitor, I have nights where I'll wake up in the middle of the night because something's weighing heavy on my mind, and my mind will intensify it. My mind will magnify a problem which doesn't need to be magnified. It's probably not even a problem, but my brain will make me believe it is a problem.
Mm. Are you good at sleeping, or do you struggle?
I'm better than what I used to be. Yes, I do still struggle at times, but I think that's just pressures of life at times. We all hit those pressures from time to time, which can disturb our sleep.
Mm.
But I think that's just life. That just happens regardless, of where you are and what kind of position you're in.
Yeah, I think your sleep is. I mean, this is science. No, I'm not coming out with anything extraordinary, but often your sleep is a reflection of your day. So if you have
Yeah.
if you achieve most of the things, because you won't achieve all, but if you achieve most of the things um, that you wanted to, chances are that you're gonna have a peaceful night of sleep. And then the interesting thing is, if you had a good rest, chances are that you're gonna have a good day. It's a cycle,
Exactly.
no? It's an
Yeah.
interesting cycle.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. If you have a good day, you're going to have a good night's sleep. If you have a bad day, you're going to get into bed, and those troubles are going to be with you when you get into bed. And again, at night time, because there's less things going on, there's less distractions, your brain will just sit there and intensify, obviously,
Yes.
whatever it is going through your mind, So then you think, right, I'll put the TV on, I'll watch a bit of TV. You then get drawn into something that's on TV. So then, you're watching that as a distraction. Then come 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, you turn your TV off, then your brain just goes back into that thinking cycle again, because you've had that distraction only for a couple of hours. But at night time, there is less to distract you than what there is during the day. So I think
Yeah.
that is where the brain intensifies and overthinks and overanalyzes everything.
Yeah, and you are not able to fact check your thoughts in a way that you can when you are
Exactly.
awake, because you can just say this is BS or I'm exaggerating,
Yeah.
or even if it goes that way, even if the outcome is that tragic, maybe it's not the end of the road. Okay, I can fix it, but if you are sleeping, then you are fully exposed to the most dangerous demon, because you cannot stop it. You just cannot.
No,
So,
that's
like,
right.
you can develop some awareness. I mean, I did it myself because I'm good at falling asleep. Okay, I have no issue with that, but I often, not often, but I mean, it's not unusual, let's put it like that I have nightmares, about certain things
Yeah.
that I'm concerned, and they will just pop in my mind in the middle of the night. And the funny thing, because I have this clock on my nightstand, the funny thing, these nightmares, they tend to occur more or less at the same time, around 3 a.m.
Okay.
I don't know why is that.
I don't know. Everybody's different, Vitor. Everyone has different sleeping habits and things like that. I don't think that any two people would ever be the same when it comes down to the way that they handle their emotions or feelings and the way that they sleep and things like that. But yeah, I mean, I think that just again just comes down to pressures of life. We all have these pressures, but there's other things that can help, like a good diet, for example. If you eat well, your body's going to be a lot better because you might be eating a lot better. Again, a diet will affect your mind. Whereas
Yes.
if you're eating not the greatest of food all the time, your body's going to reflect that, your mind's going to reflect that. Whereas if you have a good diet, you drink water, you have some veg every day or a bit of fruit every day, stuff like that, you'll find that your body performs a lot better and your mind would perform a lot better.
Yeah. And you also need to know what food is suitable to you, because as I said, we are all different. Some people are more okay with certain fruits. Some people need more water than others. Some people shouldn't drink water before going to bed. For some others, it's an absolute must. You need to, I think, end of the day, it's all about self-awareness. Like, what are the good elements that you should welcome to your life that will make your day-to-day better?
Yeah, it's self-care. That's
Yes.
what it comes down to, is that balance of self-care. Yes, I don't have the healthiest of diets sometimes, but again, coming back to the pressures of life, the pressures that I face, sometimes dictates to me that, I have to eat something quick. I have to eat food that's on the go because I haven't got the time to sit down and, eat a proper meal. I haven't got time to sit down and eat a proper lunch. So yes, sometimes I do eat what we call a lot of beige food, which would be sausage rolls, pork pies, Scotch eggs, things like that, yes, taste nice, but they're not particularly great for you because it's just full of, processed food.
Yes. Yeah.
It's quick, it's convenient, but if you sit down in the evening, you actually dedicate, a couple of hours to cooking a meal and eating that meal slowly, and making sure your diet is balanced, it will give back to you. It will help you.
Yes.
And,
Yeah.
A good diet is good for the mind.
Yeah, 100%. I tend to say that there are certain things, especially food, that they make you feel well, but they are not good for you. Which seems like a paradox, no? Because like, if they make you feel well, they should be good for you, but it's just an instant gratification. That's all that is. Like, you eat that, you're gonna feel great for 5-10 minutes, but let's say on the same evening you're gonna pay the price. It's not gonna be in a week or in a month or even a year. Like, the price is there for you, and it's not gonna wait. Not gonna make you wait for a long time. It's a quick pressure. That's it.
Yeah, definitely.
If you would speak to your younger self, okay, what would you tell him?
Oh, that's the $1 million question. What would
Of
I
course,
tell
it's
my
for the
yeah?
end. For the end, yeah.
What would I tell my younger self? Do you know what? That's something I've never really thought about, Vitor, because the way that I see it is I wouldn't be the person that I am today if I hadn't have experienced what I've experienced in life, if I hadn't have gone through what I've gone through. So I don't think I'm the best person to ask that question to, because yes, I've got a lot of regrets about my past and a lot of the things that I've done in my past. And, I do have an awful lot of regrets, but I wouldn't be here in the position that I'm in now with the career that I have now and the help that I'm giving to people now had I not have gone through what I've gone through in life, in my earlier life. So I really can't answer that one. I wish I could, but I just can't.
That's for another time. Not a
Yeah.
problem. Yeah.
That's something I would
No,
need to really kind of think about.
no worries. Let's talk about the others where people are watching as well. Very quiet, but maybe they are just digesting information. So for those who are watching us and they are feeling stuck, but they know there is something to be sorted, would you share some advice on how to take action?
If you're feeling stuck, there is always going to be an answer. If you're feeling stuck, I would simply say just sit down in a quiet room for half an hour to an hour and just write down on paper what it is you're feeling stuck about. That way you are going to be able to see things a lot clearer, and you'll be able to see where you are a lot clearer if you write it down. If you write it down, you can then work through it methodically rather than having 15,000 thoughts running through your head at 1,000,000 miles an hour, not being able to make sense of anything. But if you was to sit there and just write everything down on a piece of paper, I think that would help. I think you would be able to see a lot clearer and you would be able to find a way through, because you can then just
Would you
slowly cross them off your list.
would you recommend people to use pen and paper?
Use pen and paper, or you can use Microsoft Word, or you can use, if you've got a smartphone, use notes on your smartphone, just anywhere that you can just write down your thoughts. Even if you end up doing it as a journal,
Yes.
like a daily diary sort of thing of what's happened that day, what you've done that day, what you've achieved, what you haven't achieved. And again, it's okay not to achieve everything that you set out in that day. It's not about putting pressure on yourself at all, but it's just about looking at what you want to do and what you feel you can do to achieve where you want to achieve. But if you write it down and then you just cross it off as you complete those tasks, you will have that sense of achievement. You'll have that sense of empowerment. You'll have that greater endorphins running through your mind, because you can physically see what you've done, what you've achieved. But equally, it's okay not to achieve everything that you write down.
Yeah, 100%. And I think there's a huge power of externalizing your thoughts, whether it's using
Yeah,
Microsoft Word or piece of paper or even your smartphone. But if you
yeah,
can visualize things and they are not just stuck in your
yeah,
head, again, this is like halfway, you are halfway through. And if you
yeah,
can, if you can pause at least for 5
yeah,
minutes, that is powerful.
yeah.
Right? Never underestimate the power of a pause.
Exactly, because what I'm thinking about now, I might forget in 5 minutes because something else has cropped up in my mind, But what I'm thinking about now, as opposed to what I'll be thinking about in 5 minutes' time, now might be more important than 5 minutes' time. So that's why it's important just to scribble it down on a piece of paper, and then you can come back to it. Whether or not you come back to it that day or in a week's time or a year's time, you can still come back to it.
So here is an incentive for you folks, for the evening before you start the week. It's still Sunday, so maybe before getting to another week, take a deep breath and have a think. Just take first 5-10 minutes, no more. It's a life changing. So before I wrap up, also, lads, remember, this is not just a podcast. This is part of Movember, okay? And if tonight's chat hit home for you or made you think of a mate who has been struggling, take a second to donate. There are two ways. One is using the link in the comments or in the description, or you can use this Q&R here, okay? And you'll be able to donate. Even a $5 can help people out there who are struggling. And if you haven't subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. If you want to share with someone who may benefit of this conversation, press the share button. And if you want to let us know that you enjoy chat ahead with James, make sure to press the like button. James, massive thanks to you for being open tonight. Let's keep this conversation going after we end the stream. The chat box is open, okay? So if there are some things you want to drop, you can let us know. Myself or James will pick it later on.
Yep.
Again, talk to someone, book that GP visit, and please support Movember. This was the Witty Vitor. Take care, stay curious, and keep talking. Have a good evening, guys. Take care.
Thank you.